Reborn, I am exhausted. When my wife, the woman I guarded for 10 years, once again cried her heart out over that blonde kid, I didn't go mad like I did in my last life. I only handed her a tissue. I wish you happiness. Because I knew that in the corner of that crowd, there was another foolish girl who had waited for me for 2 lifetimes. Enough. Ethan, are you done yet? The sharp female voice stabbed into my eardrum like a steel needle. Before me, my wife Luna, the woman I loved and protected for 10 years, stared at me with a look I had never seen before, a mix of disgust and contempt. In front of her, protecting her, was a man with garish blonde hair named Jake. A faint, ambiguous sneer tugged at Jake's mouth. His gaze toward me was full of the triumphant arrogance of a victor. I stood frozen, my mind blank. Isn't this the scene from 10 years ago? At Luna's company celebration party, she drunk too much and acted intimately with his colleague Jake. I had merely stepped forward to support her home. Jake deliberately stuck out his foot to trip me. I stumbled into him, and he fell to the floor, shouting that I had hit him. And so this scene unfolded. Luna, without asking any questions, pinned all the blame on me, claiming I was petty and making a fuss, humiliating her in public. In my last life, I completely lost it right here. Like an enraged beast, I lunged forward and wrestled with Jake, creating a chaotic scene. As a result, I was labeled a drunken troublemaker and escorted out by the hotel security guard Mike. And Luna, from beginning to end, never once looked at me. From that day, our relationship plunged. She began meeting Jake frequently under the pretense of colleague exchange, and grew increasingly cold toward me. I was crazily jealous, using every means to try to break them up, but all it earned me was deeper disgust from Luna and more triumphant mockery from Jake. I played the clown in a one-man show, and in the end, I pushed Luna farther and farther away until she fell into Jake's arms. On the day of the divorce, Luna didn't even show up. She merely had the lawyer Daniel deliver the agreement. I left with nothing and became the laughingstock of our circle. Later, I learned that everything I thought I'd built with my bare hands, the billion-dollar Johnson Corporation, had always had the shadow of the Bennett family behind it. And the Bennett family's ICCO, Chloe, whom I had only met a few times at business gatherings and hardly exchanged words with, turned out to be my former fiancée. It was she who anonymously invested the first funds in my early startup days. It was she who, when Luna and Jake conspired to suppress me and my company teetered on the brink of bankruptcy, used the Bennett family's power to shield me from all open and covert attacks. It was she who, after my divorce, when I was broken and drowning myself in drink, silently followed behind me and time after time dragged me out of the mud of bars. Yet because of my obsession with Luna, I never once looked back at her. In the end, to get revenge on Jake, I engineered a business trap, but he turned it on me. I accumulated enormous debts in US dollars and ended up in prison. In prison, I learned from the visiting lawyer Daniel that Chloe, to save me, had broken with her family, sold all the assets under her name, and even agreed to a politically arranged marriage to raise money. The day I died in prison, I heard she was holding a wedding. Endless regret and pain washed over me like a tide. If I could live my life over again. Ethan, I'm talking to you. Are you mute? Luna's impatient prodding pulled me back from the abyss of memories. I looked at her, still beautiful but written all over with impatience. Looked at the smug blonde behind her, then at the onlookers eager for a spectacle. Everything was exactly the same as 10 years ago. Only my heart could no longer be stirred. Tired, truly tired. Last life, I gave everything to love and fight for it, and in the end my family was destroyed and I lost everything. This life, I just want to lie flat and live a comfortable life. I pulled at the corner of my mouth and showed a smile that even I felt was unfamiliar. I didn't rush over to question her like I did last time. Instead, I took a pack of tissues from my pocket, pulled one out, and handed it to Luna. The floor is cold. Stop crying. My voice was calm, so calm it was as if I were talking about something completely unrelated to me. Luna froze. Jake froze. Everyone around who had been ready to watch the show froze too. Their imagined scene of fighting, yelling, in a big scene, none of it happened. I walked around them to a corner of the banquet hall where a figure had been standing quietly since a moment ago. The light was slightly dim, but I recognized her at once. Sophia. The foolish girl who had silently given me 10 years in the last life and whom I had broken completely. She wore a simple white dress, her long hair draped over her shoulders, her face carrying a touch of baby fat in just the right amount, pure and sweet-looking. Right now, she watched me with worry, clutching a small first aid kit in her hands that probably contained plasters and disinfectant. It had been the same last life. After security guard Mike had dragged me out, she had chased after me with that first aid kit, awkwardly trying to dress my wounds, only for me to shove her away. Back then, my heart was full of Luna's betrayal. I couldn't see anyone else's concern. Thinking of it now felt like an invisible hand clenching my heart so hard I could hardly breathe. I stepped toward her, each step feeling like treading on a blade. The surrounding noise seemed to recede. In my world, there remained only her clear, worried eyes. When Sophia saw me approaching, she grew noticeably nervous, clutching the kit tighter and involuntarily taking a step back. Ethan, are you okay? I have plasters. Her voice was thin as a mosquito, with a barely perceptible tremor. I stopped in front of her and looked at her steadily. 2 lives lived, and for the first time I saw her face so clearly. So this is how beautiful she is. Not the bright, showy kind of beauty Luna had, but a gentle, tranquil beauty like a mountain spring. I looked at her and suddenly smiled. Amid the astonished gazes of everyone, I spoke to the girl I had wronged in my past life, solemnly and clearly. Sophia, I like you. Will you be my girlfriend? The banquet hall fell into an instant hush. Time seemed to stop at that moment. All eyes fixed on me, full of shock, incomprehension, and a hint of pity as if I had gone mad. Luna's face went deathly pale. She probably thought I was using this to get back at her or to provoke her. Jake's smug grin froze, replaced by the annoyance of someone who'd had the spotlight stolen. And Sophia, in front of me, was completely stupefied. Her clear almond eyes went round, her mouth slightly open, staring at me blankly as if she had just heard the most outrageous story. The first aid kit in her hand hit the floor with a clatter, scattering Band-Aids and cotton swabs everywhere. She stammered, her cheeks flushing visibly red, the color spreading up to her ears and even tinting her fair neck with a pretty pink. Seeing her so adorably stunned, the gloom that had weighed on me for 2 lifetimes felt as if sunlight had crept in, softened at the edges. I bent down, picked up the items one by one, placed them back into the small kit, and handed it back to her. My fingertips brushed the back of her hand unintentionally, warm and soft. Her hand recoiled as if burned. I looked up and met her wide, panic-stricken doe-like eyes, and repeated myself seriously. I'm not joking, Sophia. I'm serious. My voice was low but carried clearly through the quiet banquet hall. Ethan, are you crazy? Luna reacted first. She rushed over and grabbed my arm, her pretty face twisted by anger. To get back at me, you go this far? You couldn't pick anyone else but her. Her tone dripped with haughty superiority, and her look at Sophia was openly contemptuous. Sophia came from an ordinary family. She was merely delicate in appearance. In Luna's eyes, a favored daughter of heaven, Sophia probably didn't even qualify as a foil. Sophia shrank back at the look, instinctively stepping away to avoid the storm. A pang hit me. I stepped forward and, without making it obvious, positioned myself between Sophia and Luna, blocking Luna's sight. I gently pried Luna's hand off my arm, my tone even. Luna, we're over. Who I'm with has nothing to do with you. Over? Who said it's over? Luna sounded as if I told a joke. We're just quarreling. You're just throwing a tantrum, right? Ethan, stop this. Come home with me. She tried to take my hand again. Her voice softened, tinged with her usual coquettishness. In the past, whenever she did that, no matter how angry I was, I'd surrender immediately. But now I only felt irony. I stepped back, avoiding her touch. No, I'm not throwing a tantrum. I looked her in the eyes and spoke each word deliberately. I said we're over. From now on, you walk your sunny road. I'll walk my single log bridge. Then I turned to the still stunned Sophia and reached out my hand, my voice softer than I had expected. Will you give me a chance? Sophia looked at my outstretched hand, then at Luna beside us, face ashen, and her small face twisted in conflict. She bit her lower lip, as if wrestling with a fierce inner battle. I knew this choice was agonizing for her. On one side was the man she had admired for so long. On the other, a radiant, well-born rival. Saying yes meant bearing pressure from Luna, perhaps from the whole circle. In a last life, she couldn't bear it and quietly walked away. This time, I would not let her face it alone. Just when I thought she'd retreat like before, she suddenly lifted her head. In her clear eyes flickered a light I'd never seen. The light called courage. She took a deep breath, as if resolving something monumental, and then, under everyone's incredulous gaze, gently placed her soft little hand into my palm. I am willing. Her voice was still very soft, but like a thunderclap, it exploded in everyone's ears. My heart at that moment pounded wildly. I gripped her hand tightly, as if holding the whole world. Luna's complexion shifted instantly from white to green, then to purple, a full display. She probably never dreamed that Sophia, whom she'd always treated as background, whose name she couldn't even remember, would dare to steal her man in public. Sophia, do you know what you're doing? Luna's voice was so sharp it nearly pierced eardrums. She pointed at Sophia, trembling with anger. He's my man. Who do you think you are? Sophia shrank back from her shout, but she didn't let go of my hand. I could feel the sweat in her palm and a slight tremor. I wrapped her small hand in my palm, gave her a reassuring look, then turned to Luna, my expression cold. Luna, watch your words. First, I am not your man. Second, I am the one pursuing Sophia. She didn't come after me. I paused, glancing at Jake behind her who hadn't said a word since earlier, and a smirk tugged at my mouth. If you're really so worried about your man, maybe you should mind the one behind you. After all, I don't want to be treated as part of your little play. My tone wasn't loud, but the message was heavy. The crowd immediately burst into suppressed murmurs. What do you mean? Luna's involved with that blonde guy. I always thought something was off with them. Always clingy, more intimate than a couple. So Ethan got cheated on and then immediately fell for someone else? This plot twist is too much. Luna's face went deathly pale. She could accept people calling her spoiled and willful, but never that her private life was loose. That would destroy her perfect heiress image. You're lying. Ethan, you're slandering me out of revenge, she shouted in a panic. Whether I'm lying or not, you know in your heart. I was done arguing and tugged Sophia to turn and leave. Let's go. You're not allowed to leave. Jake suddenly rushed forward, blocking our path. He glared at me viciously, his eyes full of hatred. Ethan, say what you mean. You're defaming us. I'll sue you. Looks like my words hit a nerve with him too. Suing me? I sounded amused. Fine, I'll play along anytime. But I suggest you find a decent lawyer and look up the elements of defamation. Oh, I can even kindly provide some free evidence, like the hotel surveillance footage or you're in Luna's normal colleague communication chat logs. Jake's expression changed instantly. He knew better than anyone the dirty dealings between him and Luna. If I really exposed those things, the unlucky ones wouldn't be just Luna. He pointed at me, trying to act fierce. You dare. Do you think I wouldn't? I sneered, ignored him, and walked straight for the exit with Sophia. This time, no one dared stop us. Behind us was Luna's frantic crying and the crowd's rising chatter, like a noisy, absurd farce. But I didn't care anymore. Holding the girl beside me, I stepped out of that cage that had once caused me so much pain toward my own new life. As we passed through the hotel doors, the evening breeze brought a touch of coolness, and my taut nerves finally eased a little. Sophia beside me kept her head bowed, silent. I stopped and looked at her. Regret it. She shook her head violently, lifted her face to me, her eyes rimmed red. No, I just feel like I'm dreaming. She watched me cautiously, a thread of uncertainty in her voice. Ethan, do you really like me? Not just because you had a fight with Luna and wanted to spite her. I looked into her anxious eyes and felt another pang in my chest. This silly girl, even now, still worrying that I might be using her. I raised my hand, wanting to liken the last life, stroke her head, and give her some comfort. But halfway there I froze. What right do I have now to touch her? I withdrew my hand and looked at her solemnly. Sophia, listen to me. Before I was blind, my heart was blind too, and I missed many important things. But now I see clearly and I understand. I have no feelings left for Luna. When I say I like you, I mean it truly from my heart. I took a deep breath and continued. I know you might find it hard to believe me now. That's okay. Time will prove everything. I won't force you to accept me right away, but I hope you'll give me a chance to pursue you. A chance to start over. Sophia stared at me steadily, and finally the tears she had held back fell, drop by drop. But this time, they were not from grievance or fear. They carried a touch of joy and relief. She nodded vigorously, her voice thick with a nasal sob. That simple sound felt like a key, unlocking the door to my heart that had been sealed for 2 lifetimes. I looked at her, cute with tears on her cheeks, and couldn't help smiling. I took a tissue from my pocket. This time it was to wipe her tears away. All right, don't cry. If you keep crying, it'll mess up your looks. I awkwardly tried to comfort her like a domineering CEO in a TV drama. She let out a snort laugh, tears still clinging to her lashes, looking both adorable and pitiful. I'll take you home, I said. She nodded. I drove steadily through the night. The car was quiet except for soft music. I stole a glance at Sophia. She had her head tilted, watching the streets blur past the window, a faint flush on her face, the corners of her mouth slightly upturned, lost in thought about who knows what. Peaceful times. Those words slipped into my mind without warning. So happiness can be this simple. No need for grand gestures or public attention. Having her by my side is enough. Soon we were downstairs at Sophia's building. An ordinary, old neighborhood. I stopped the car and unbuckled her seatbelt. We're here. She responded, but didn't get out right away. She kept her head down, fiddling with her fingers. The atmosphere suddenly turned a bit intimate. Seeing her flushed earlobes, I felt my heart stir and couldn't help leaning closer. She seemed to sense my intention. Her body stiffened instantly. Her breath halted. I drew nearer and nearer, close enough to smell the faint scent of her shampoo, fresh and pleasant. Just as my lips were about to touch her cheek, she turned her head suddenly and closed her eyes. My kiss landed on her lips. Soft, sweet, like cotton candy. My brain exploded with a boom. Isn't this developing a bit too fast? I had only meant to kiss her cheek, and yet, Sophia clearly didn't expect this either. Her lashes fluttered like startled butterflies, trembling wildly, her body rigid as a stone. I could feel my heart racing as if it would leap out of my throat. This was the first time I'd felt like this in 2 lifetimes. Nervous, exhilarated, with a trace of an indescribable sweetness. The kiss lasted only a few seconds. I came to my senses first and jumped back as if electrocuted. So sorry, I stammered, my cheeks burning fiercely. Heaven knows, for someone who had lived 2 lifetimes and once ruled a multi-billion-dollar business empire, to be thrown into such turmoil over a single kiss was humiliating. Sophia also sprung awake, covering her mouth like a frightened little rabbit, flung the car door open and ran out, not looking back as she dashed into the stairwell. Watching her retreating figure, I smacked my forehead in frustration. I messed up. I'm such an idiot. I slumped back in the seat, my thoughts a jumbled mess. Would she think I was a flirtatious playboy? Would she form a bad impression of me because of it? The more I thought, the more agitated I became. I couldn't help but roll down the window and light a cigarette. In the swirling smoke, I seemed to see my past self again. The fool who, for Luna, was betrayed by all, and finally met a miserable death in prison. No, I can't repeat the same mistake. This time, I must seize the happiness that belongs to me. I stubbed out the cigarette, took out my phone, and opened Sophia's star chat. Her avatar was an adorable ragdoll cat, soft and cute like her. I stared at that avatar for a long time before summoning the courage to type a line. Me. Sorry, I was too impulsive tonight. Sent. Then began the long wait. 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Her chat window never showed typing. My heart sank little by little. She really was angry. Just as I was about to give up and plan to apologize in person tomorrow, my phone dinged. Sophia had replied. Sophia Kute. No. Just 3 short words, and I felt instantly revived. I hurriedly asked again. Me? Then why did you run so fast? Sophia cute. I was shy. Seeing those 3 words made me laugh aloud. So she was shy. That silly girl was unbelievably cute. The weight lifted from my chest, and my fingers typed more lightly. Me. So, you don't hate that kiss, right? After sending it, I thought I was being too blunt and considered deleting it, but her message came back. Sophia Kute. No, I don't hate it. She added a blushing emoji. Looking at that emoji, I could almost picture her hiding under the covers, face aflame with embarrassment. My heart completely melted into a puddle. Me. That's good. Sleep early, good night. Sophia cute, good night. The chat ended, but I couldn't sleep at all. I leaned in the car and reread our messages, a smile unconsciously curling my mouth. So this is what being in love feels like. Sweet. On the other side, Sophia returned home, leaning against the door, her heart still pounding. Her cheeks were hot, her mind full of that unexpected kiss. His lips were even softer than she'd imagined. His breath carried a faint tobacco scent, surprisingly pleasant. Yeah. She covered her face and let out a silent scream, then spun around the living room like a little top several times before finally calming down. She took out her phone and opened Ethan's StarChat avatar. It was a side profile photo of him in a suit, sharp-featured and outrageously handsome. She had secretly saved that photo for a long time. She opened Moments again and saw Ethan's latest post from half an hour ago. There was only one picture, an old apartment building at night. The caption read, "A new beginning." Sophia recognized that building at a glance. It was her home. Her heart felt like it was filled with honey, so sweet it was about to overflow. He really meant it. The next day, I got up early. Facing the mirror, I carefully shaved and changed into a clean set of casual clothes. Looking at the radiant, spirited version of myself in the mirror, I nodded in satisfaction. Yes, this is how a young man should look. In my last life, I lived too hard, always in suits and behaving stiffly in public, like a greasy middle-aged man. This life, I'm going to live for myself. I drove straight to the city's most upscale mall. If I wanted to pursue a girl, I couldn't show up empty-handed. What do girls like? Bags, makeup, jewelry? I stood before rows of dazzling luxury goods and felt at a loss. In my previous life, I'd bought Luna countless things like these, but now I couldn't remember what Sophia would like. I only recalled that she seemed to really like animals. Her profile picture on Xingsun was also a cat. Right, a cat. My eyes lit up, and I turned into a pet store next to the mall. Half an hour later, I walked out holding a carrier, completely satisfied. Inside was a 3-month-old ragdoll cat with blue eyes like 2 clear gems. So cute it melted your heart. I named it Machi. I hope my relationship with Sophia could be like Machi, sticky and sweet. I drove, carrying my wingman Machi, straight to Sophia's place. Standing downstairs at her building, I held the carrier, took a deep breath, and rang the doorbell. The door was opened by a kind-looking middle-aged dandy, probably Sophia's mother, Margaret. She froze when she saw me, then broke into a warm smile. "Oh my, you must be Ethan, right? Come in. I was a bit surprised. She actually knew me. Margaret ushered me in, poured tea, brought out fruit, her hospitality making me slightly overwhelmed. "Auntie, you know me?" "Of course I do." Margaret smiled, so broadly her mouth couldn't close. "Our Sophia keeps talking about you every day, My ears are about to get calloused. I was stunned. Talking about me every day? At that moment, Sophia rushed out of her room, her face as red as a ripe apple. "Mom, what are you saying?" she said while sneaking an irritated glare at her mother. Margaret pretended not to notice and chirped, "I'm not making this up. Don't you stare at Ethan's photos all the time and say oops." Margaret hadn't finished when Sophia stepped on her foot. Watching the mother and daughter interact, I couldn't help laughing. So this silly girl had already kept me in her heart. "Mr. George, Mrs. Margaret, hello. I'm Ethan, Sophia's boyfriend. I upgraded suitor straight to boyfriend." Sophia turned even redder and kept her head down, not daring to look at me. George stood up from the sofa. He wore glasses and looked gentle, but his appraisal carried a hint of scrutiny. "Sit down." His tone was neither cold nor warm. My heart skipped a beat. I knew this was the test for my future father-in-law. I set the travel crate on the floor and opened the door. Little Machi poked a small head out with a meow, curiously taking in the new surroundings. "Wow, what cute cat." Sophia's eyes lit up. She instantly threw shyness aside, crouched down, and carefully picked Machi up. Machi seemed to like her too, rubbing its little head against her cheek and making a soft purr-purr sound. Margaret came over as well, her face full of affection. "Oh my, this kitten is so beautiful. What's its name?" "Machi," I said. "It's a gift for Sophia." "For me?" Sophia looked up, surprised and delighted. I nodded. "I saw your Star News avatar and figured you must love cats, so I took the liberty. I hope you like it." "I love it. I love it so much." Sophia hugged Machi, smiling with eyes curved like crescents, like a child who's just received her favorite toy. Seeing her smile, I felt that no amount of money spent was wasted. George watched the scene. His expression softened slightly, but he still didn't relent. He cleared his throat and asked, "Ethan, I heard from Sophia you used to be in a relationship with that Clark family daughter, Luna?" Here it comes. The main issue. I sat up straight and met his gaze calmly. "Yes, Mr. George, but that was in the past. Right now, I only want to be with Sophia." "Oh," George pushed up his glasses. "What makes us believe you're not acting on impulse? A family like the Clarks isn't comparable to an ordinary family like ours. You can give up everything for our Sophia today. What if tomorrow you give her up for another her?" His words were sharp and hit the mark. It was my greatest worry as well. I was silent for a moment, then took something from my pocket and placed it on the coffee table. It was a share transfer agreement. "Mr. George, these are the shares of all the companies under my name. I've already authorized my lawyer Daniel to transfer them all into Sophia's name." My voice wasn't loud, but it was like a bomb going off in the small living room. The three Taylors were stunned. George held the agreement, his hand trembling. Though he was only a university professor, he understood the weight of that document. Ethan, as a rising business figure, already had a net worth exceeding tens of billions of dollars. Those thin sheets of paper represented wealth an ordinary family could not imagine in several lifetimes. And now he was going to give all that to his daughter? What do you mean by this? George's voice changed tone. "I mean, I'm willing to give everything I have in exchange for a chance to spend the rest of my life with Sophia." I looked into Sophia's eyes and spoke earnestly. "Money can be earned again, but some people, once missed, can never be found. It took me a lifetime to understand that. So in this life, I don't want to miss her again." To others, my words might sound cloying or insincere, but only I knew this was my truest feeling. In my last life, I had all the world's wealth, but lost the only person who truly loved me. Those cold numbers brought only fleeting vanity. What remained was endless emptiness and regret. This life, I can have nothing else. I only want her. Silence filled the living room. Sophia held Machi, staring at me blankly, her eyes reddening again. George looked at the agreement in his hands and remained silent for a long time. Margaret glanced at me, then at her daughter. The worry in her eyes gradually turned into relief. After a long while, George finally let out a long sigh. He pushed the agreement back toward me. "We can't accept this. but we appreciate the gesture." He looked at me, and his gaze finally softened. "Young man, the road is long. Don't risk everything you have on one woman. Sophia isn't the sword to chase wealth. We've seen how well you treat her." He paused, then continued, "I only have this one daughter. I raised her like a treasure. I hope you will treat her sincerely and not let her suffer." Those words were, without a doubt, their approval of my relationship with Sophia. The heavy stone in my chest finally dropped. I stood up and bowed deeply to George and Margaret. "Mr. George, Mrs. Margaret, rest assured. I, Ethan, swear here and now that in this life I will never fail Sophia." My voice was firm and strong. When I left the Taylor family, it was already dark. Sophia walked me down to the building entrance. We walked side by side under the dim streetlights of the neighborhood, neither of us speaking. Near the car, she suddenly stopped. "Ethan, that agreement, is it real?" she asked quietly. "Of course it's real. Why did you do that?" I turned to look at her. In the moonlight, her face seemed wrapped in a hazy glow, unreal in its beauty. I couldn't help reaching out and gently brushing her cheek. "Because, to me, you are 10,000 times more important than those things." Her body trembled slightly. The light in her eyes outshone the stars. She suddenly rose on her tiptoes and planted a soft peck on my lips. Then, like a startled fawn, she turned and ran. I stood there stunned, touching my lips where her soft touch and sweet scent still lingered. I looked down and smiled. That silly girl had finally figured out. From the day I received her future parents' approval at the Taylor family, Sophia and I officially entered a sweet, passionate relationship. I kept my promise to lie low, handing all of Johnson Corporation's affairs to the few trusted aides I relied on most. There were people I had promoted in my previous life, loyal and unquestionably capable. In my last life, I micromanaged everything, becoming a workaholic and neglecting the people who mattered most. This time, I wanted to spend all my time with Sophia. My daily routine became driving her to and from work, eating with her, watching movies, and shopping. We did the simplest, most romantic things ordinary young couples do. I took her to taste dishes from the world's 8 major cuisines, watching her eat like a little hamster with cheeks puffed, then beam at me satisfied and say, "So good." I brewed foreign fruit wines and malt beer at home and drag her to taste them with me. She couldn't hold her liquor. One small sip would flush her cheeks like apples and make her gaze dreamy. So cute, I couldn't help wanting to pull her into my arms. I also took her to work out with me. I trained strength while she practiced yoga. Every time I finished a set of bench presses and sat up sweating all over, I would always see her standing nearby, her bright eyes full of admiration. Then she'd run over under the pretense of handing me water and sneakily feel my abs. Her small hand would glide across my stomach, sending a shiver through me. I grabbed her hand and lowered my voice, asking in her ear, "Want a touch? I'll give you permission only." Her face flushed in an instant. She tried to pull her hand back, but I held it tighter. I guided her hand down, tracing my V-line. I could feel her breathing quicken. Ethan, stop it, this is the gym." She protested softly, her voice weak and unconvincing. I bent down and kissed her reddened earlobe, smiling lightly. "What are you afraid of?" They wouldn't dare to look. My brazen displays of affection had already spread throughout the whole circle. At first, everyone thought I was just playing around, waiting to see Sophia get dumped. But as time went on, they realized I was serious. I spoiled Sophia rotten. The designer brand she liked. I signed that designer, Olivia Garcia, to my company to serve her alone. The bakery she loved. I bought the whole shop and had it bake the freshest cakes daily, just for her. The company she worked for, I bought it outright, then promoted her and gave her a raise, making her the youngest director there. To outsiders, my actions seemed absurd and crazy. But Sophia never asked me why. Whatever I did, she trusted and supported me unconditionally. She would be happy all day because I bought the entire bakery for her. Not because of how much it was worth, but because she felt it was how I showed my love. She would also feel pressured by my acquisition of her company and then work even harder to prove she deserved the position. She was such a simple and beautiful girl. Her world was very small, small enough to hold only me. And my world became whole because of her. Our love became a celebrated tale in the circle. Those who once mocked us were now left only with envy and hatred, especially Luna. I heard that since that banquet, her relationship with Jake became well known. The Clark family, for the sake of reputation, forced her to cut ties with Jake. But Luna seemed bewitched. She refused to marry anyone but Jake, even going so far as to fall out with her family and move out to live with him. After losing the Clark family as a backing, Jake's career collapsed. He was soon fired. With no income, he grew irritable and violent, often fighting with Luna and even hitting her. Luna had been pampered for over 20 years and was used to this kind of mistreatment. After every fight with Jake, she would come to me. She would cry and tell me she regretted it, that she knew she was wrong, begging me for another chance. At first, I would still meet her and make it clear that we were impossible. But after a while, I was too lazy even to see her. I had my assistant Ryan stop her at the company gate. What you can't get always stirs unrest. The one who is favored becomes brazen. In my past life, I was the one in turmoil. This time it's her. The wheel of fortune turns. How ironic. In sharp contrast to Luna's misery was my success. The companies under my name, managed by a few trusted lieutenants, were thriving. A strange phenomenon even began to appear. The more I lie flat, the more the company's stock price goes crazy. Hashtag Mr. Ethan slept in again today. Hashtag. That topic actually became a viral meme on social platforms. Every morning, countless shareholders wait under my Xingxun account for my assistant Ryan to post my sleeping photo. Whenever the photo goes up, the company's shares inevitably hit the daily limit. They say the deeper I sleep, the steadier the company runs, and that makes them feel reassured. I can't help but laugh and cry about it. These shareholders really know how to play. But it's fine. I enjoy the leisure. It gives me more time to spend with my Sophia. That day, I was watching an old movie with Sophia when my assistant Ryan's call came in. Mr. Johnson, Chloe. Miss Chloe is here. Ryan sounded a little nervous. Miss Chloe? Which Miss Chloe? I paused, then it clicked. Chloe, my former fiancée. Why would she come looking for me? To be honest, my feelings about Chloe were complicated. In my last life, she gave so much for me, and I didn't know until I died. That debt of gratitude weighs like a mountain. In this life, the reason I didn't reach out to her was partly because I didn't want any more emotional entanglements with her, and partly because I knew that with her pride, she would never accept any repayment from me. I only wanted her to live her own life well, and not be dragged down by me, this scumbag. Yet unexpectedly, she still came here. Tell her to come in. I hung up and glanced at Sophia beside me. She looked at me curiously. Who is it? An old acquaintance. I didn't know how to explain my relationship with Chloe to her. Childhood betrothals sound ridiculous when you say them out loud. Soon the office door opened. Chloe walked in. She wore a well-tailored black business suit, her long hair meticulously pinned at the back, a pair of gold-rimmed glasses on her face. The eyes behind the lenses were cold and sharp. She was like a walking iceberg, emanating an aura that kept strangers at bay. She was exactly the same as in my last life. No, there were some differences. When I saw her before, there had always been a lingering sadness in her eyes. Now her gaze held only pure indifference and distance. This was the real her, the woman groomed by the Bennett family as an heir, who regarded all emotions as weaknesses, a business tycoon. Her gaze swept the office, finally landing on Sophia beside me. When she saw Sophia linked lovingly with my arm, a barely perceptible ripple seemed to cross those calm, ancient well eyes. But it passed quickly, and her expression returned to stillness. Mr. Johnson, long time no see. Her voice matched her, cold, without a hint of warmth. Miss Bennett, what a rare guest. Please sit. I nodded toward the sofa opposite. Chloe didn't sit. She took a file from her bag and set on my desk. I'm here today to discuss the cooperation project for the West City plot. The West City plot? I blinked, then remembered. That was a project my company had been bidding for recently. And Bennett Corporation was our biggest competitor. Cooperation? I raised an eyebrow. I thought we're competitors. There are no permanent enemies in business, only permanent interests. Chloe's tone was as flat as if she were reciting. This project is a must-win for the Bennett family. But if we cooperate with you, we can maximize the benefits. It's a win-win. She wasn't wrong. If I teamed up with the Bennett family and landed this project, it would be almost guaranteed. But why would I cooperate with her? My current goal is to lie low, not make money. I was about to refuse when Sophia, beside me, suddenly gave my arm a gentle squeeze. I turned to look at her. She gave me a meaningful glance, then stood up and flashed a sweet smile at Chloe. Miss Bennett, hello, my name is Sophia. I'm Ethan's girlfriend. She reached out her hand first. Chloe froze for a moment, as if she hadn't expected such a bold move. After hesitating a bit, she extended her hand and gave Sophia a light shake. Hello. Her hand was cold, like her. Miss Bennett, please sit. Would you like something to drink? Coffee or tea? Sophia greeted her warmly like a hostess. No need. Chloe's tone remained cold. Don't be so formal. Sophia, without asking, lightly pushed her down onto the couch and then turned to the tea room. The office was left with just Chloe and me. The atmosphere was awkward. I didn't know what to say. Chloe stayed silent, sitting upright like an exquisite ice sculpture. After a long while, she finally spoke again, her voice carrying a faint, hard-to-detect, complex emotion. She's the one you chose. I knew she meant Sophia. I nodded. Yes. Why? No reason. She's just the one. My answer was simple and direct. Chloe fell silent. The hand at her lap unconsciously clenched into a fist. I knew my answer must have hurt her. From what I knew of her last life, she was an extremely proud and confident person. She couldn't understand how someone like her, a favored daughter of heaven, could lose to an ordinary girl like Sophia. In a last life, she never managed to ask that question before she died. This life, she finally asked, but the answer I gave wasn't what she wanted. Just as the atmosphere froze to the point of ice, Sophia came back and carrying a steaming something. Miss Bennett, try this osmanthus-flavored foreign sweet wine I made myself. Warm you up. She set a delicate little porcelain cup down in front of Chloe. Chloe stared at the cup of fragrant sweet wine, stunned. Everyone in the circle knew she didn't drink anything alcoholic. She thought Sophia was deliberately making things difficult for her. Her expression darkened, and she was about to snap when Sophia, as if seeing through her thoughts, said cheerfully, Miss Bennett, don't misunderstand. This sweet wine is homemade. The alcohol content is very low, lower than yogurt. And I'll let you in on a secret, I added lots and lots of sugar. It's super sweet. As she spoke, she playfully winked. A crack appeared in Chloe's expression. She looked at the girl in front of her who was smiling with an innocent face, glanced at the steaming cup giving off osmanthus and glutinous rice scents, and as if compelled, picked it up. She took a light sip. Sweet, soft, with a hint of osmanthus fragrance. The taste was actually pretty good. Well, good, right? Sophia watched her expectantly. Chloe put down her cup without speaking, only quietly taking another sip. Watching this, I suddenly understood Sophia's intention. She wasn't asserting ownership nor trying to flatter Chloe. She was simply, in her own way, trying to defuse the awkwardness. She saw Chloe's outward coldness, and she saw my discomfort in front of Chloe. So she used a cup of sweet wine to try to melt that iceberg and to break the stalemate between us. That silly girl was always so kind, so considerate. I looked at her, the love in my eyes almost spilling over, and that scene happened to fall into Chloe's view. The hand holding the cup paused slightly. Behind her lenses, those eyes flashed a complex emotion I couldn't read. Perhaps envy, perhaps jealousy, or perhaps relief. She drank the sweet wine in the cup in one gulp, then stood up. I left the cooperation proposal here. Mr. Johnson can look it over when he has time. I have something to do. I'll be going now. She said that, turned, and left without a trace of hesitation. At the door, she suddenly stopped, looked back at Sophia. The sweet wine was very good. Thank you. With that, she opened the door and left without looking back. The office fell silent again. Sophia came to my side and asked uncertainly, "Did I mess up?" I smiled, pulled her into my arms, and hugged her tightly. "No, you did great. My Sophia is the best girl in the whole world." She nuzzled in my arms like a content little cat. "That's good. I just thought she looked a bit unhappy and wanted her to drink something sweet to feel better." My heart softened and I kissed the top of her head. That fool. Chloe's unhappiness stemmed from me. No matter how much sweet you give her, what use is it? However, after today, I was even more certain of one thing. My choice was not wrong. Sophia was the one worth spending my life protecting. As for Chloe, let us each find our own peace. I thought my interactions with Chloe would end there. Unexpectedly, 3 days later, her assistant Lisa Thompson called me. "Mr. Johnson, Miss Bennett has agreed to all your terms. The cooperation agreement has been drafted. Would you like to come by to sign?" I held the phone, completely baffled. When did I make any demands? I clearly wanted to refuse. Okay? Before I could explain, the caller had already hung up. I stared at my phone, laughing and crying at the same time. What on earth was this? I turned to look at Sophia beside me, carefully grooming Machi. "Sophia, the West City Project. Bennett Corporation agreed to cooperate with us." "Really? That's wonderful," Sophia said happily. "I told you that Miss Bennett seems cold, but she's actually nice." "Me? My silly girl. How did you come to that conclusion?" "Oh well, since she said so, let's cooperate. Besides, the company affairs are handled by my trusted people, and I'm happy to be free of it." On the day of signing, I saw Chloe again. She still wore that iceberg face, as if the woman who had drunk the sweet wine and shown that complicated look was only my illusion. She didn't say a word during the whole signing process. After signing, she left immediately, cold to the extreme. I watched her walk away, feeling like something was off. The project kicked off quickly. Since it was a collaboration between two companies, there were inevitably frequent meetings. And as the heads of the two companies, Chloe and I naturally became the main participants in every meeting. So I was forced to end my laid-back life and started going in and out of the office frequently. My overachieving subordinates welcomed it enthusiastically. They thought the boss was finally being ambitious. Only I knew how reluctant I really was. To finish meetings as quickly as possible so I could go home to my wife, I solved every issue at lightning speed each time. As a result, in the eyes of the employees at the partner company Bennett Corporation, I left an image of being decisive and efficient. Chloe had no comment, but I noticed her eyes toward me growing stranger and stranger. It was a look mixed with curiosity, inquiry, and a trace of admiration. The thought startled me. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. After all, she was Chloe. Until one time after a meeting, when everyone else left and only she and I remained in the conference room. She suddenly said, "You've changed a lot." I paused, putting away my things, and looked up at her. "Have I? She nodded, pushed up her glasses. "You used to be very capable, but too sharp, always eager for results. Now you're much steadier and harder to read." I smiled. "People change. Is it because of her?" she asked abruptly. I knew she was talking about Sophia again. I didn't deny it. "You could say that." She fell silent for a moment, then suddenly took something out of her bag. "A lunchbox? I made a little extra today. If you don't mind, want to try?" She pushed the lunchbox toward me, eyes a little evasive, her cheeks seeming slightly flushed. I glanced down at the lunchbox. It was pink with a cute rabbit illustration on it. This style didn't suit her at all. I opened it. Inside were several delicate side dishes and a small dessert, a rabbit-shaped pudding. I was stunned. Was this still the Chloe I knew, who in the past couldn't even enter a kitchen? How could she cook and make something so adorable? I picked up my chopsticks and tried a bite. The taste was actually pretty good. Not as good as what I made, but impressive for a beginner. I tried the rabbit pudding. It melted in my mouth, sweet but not cloying. "How is it?" she asked nervously, looking at me like a student waiting for the teacher's grade. "Pretty tasty," I praised sincerely. Her eyes immediately brightened and the corners of her mouth lifted. For a moment, the frost on her face seemed to melt, revealing a rare, girlish, shy delight. I suddenly realized something. Could it be she had fallen for me? The idea sounded absurd to me. But in the days that followed, her actions made me more and more think my guess might be true. She began frequently bringing me these lovingly made bento boxes, each with different dishes and desserts, but all in a cutesy style. She used work discussions as an excuse to invite me to meals and movies. She anonymously donated to the animal rescue shelter I often visited. She even started smiling at me in a way Sophia used to. Although her smile was worse than her frown, I was utterly panicked. This plot is all wrong. Wasn't he supposed to be the cold CEO who would regret it forever and watch us live happily from afar? How did he turn into the one taking the initiative? I tried to keep my distance and politely declined all her invitations. But she was like a piece of chewing gum. You couldn't shake her off. Until one day, she cornered me in the underground parking garage. "Ethan, why have you been avoiding me?" She wore a white dress, no glasses, light makeup, softer looking than usual. But her gaze was unusually persistent. "Miss Bennett, I think our relationship is just a professional one," I reminded her tactfully. "Just professional?" She stepped closer and stared into my eyes. "Then why did you defend her at the banquet? Why did you give her your entire fortune? Why? When you look at her, do you have that gentle look?" There was a barely noticeable tremor and grievance in her voice. I was at a loss for words. "I investigated you." She took a deep breath as if making a decision. "I know you broke up with Luna. I also know you and Sophia have only just begun. If that's the case, why can't it be me? Ethan, I like you. I've liked you for a long time. Since we were betrothed as children, I've liked you." Her words were like one explosion after another in my ear. I was completely stunned. Betrothed as children? How young would that have been? Why do I have no memory of it? "I know you might not remember," she smiled bitterly. "We were very young. Once some older kids bullied me, and you stood up like a little hero and drove them off. From that day, I couldn't let anyone else into my heart. Later we grew up, and Luna was by your side. I could only watch you from afar silently. I thought as long as you were happy, it would be fine. But she didn't cherish you at all. She let you suffer so much." I looked at her reddened eyes and that face full of unwillingness and love, feeling a jumble of emotions. I finally understood why in my previous life she went that far for me. That seemingly absurd childhood betrothal had, in her heart, taken root, sprouted, and grown into a towering tree. And I had known nothing about it. How cruel. "Chloe," I said with difficulty. "I am sorry." Beyond sorry, I didn't know what else to say. "I don't want your sorry." She suddenly grew agitated, stepped forward and grabbed my arm. "Ethan, give me one more chance, please. I promise I'll do better than Sophia. I can give you everything she can give. What she can't give you, I can. The Bennett family, wealth, status, whatever you want, I can give you." Seeing her verge on madness stabbed at my heart. I gently pried her hand away and spoke slowly, word by word. "Chloe, you're wonderful. You're perfect in every way. It's just that the person I love isn't you. The person I love, from beginning to end, has only ever been Sophia." My words were like the sharpest blade, driving deep in her heart. The color drained from her face instantly. She staggered back 2 steps and pressed against the cold car to steady herself. She looked at me, and the light in her eyes went out little by little. "WHY?" Her voice was as light as a feather. "Just because she met you before me?" I shook my head. "It's not about who came first. It's because she's Sophia. When I'm tired, she gives me a hug. When I'm happy, she's happier than I am. Whatever I cook, whether it's good or not, she eats it all. She remembers all my little unconscious habits and can be moved for a long time by the smallest thing I do. She may not be perfect, not clever, even a little silly, but her love for me is pure, unstained by anything else. And that love is something you, Luna, or anyone else could not give me. Chloe, let go. Go find a happiness that truly belongs to you." I finished speaking, turned, and left without a shred of regret. Behind me came her suppressed, breaking sobs. I knew I was cruel. But better a short pain than a long one. Some people, some things once missed are missed forever. In both my lives, I owe her too much. But when it comes to love, I cannot give it. Because my heart has long been wholly taken by that silly girl named Sophia. Ever since I made things clear in the parking lot that day, Chloe never appeared before me again. She handed the West Side project entirely over to the deputy general manager. I heard she applied to the family to be transferred to an overseas branch. Maybe she wanted a change of scenery, to start anew. That's fine. I sincerely hope she can find the happiness that belongs to her. As for Sophia and me, after that little episode, our relationship only grew stronger. She seemed to sense something, but she never asked. She just became clingier than before. Like a kitten afraid its owner will be taken away, wanting to be on me 24 hours a day. I relished it. That day was Sophia's birthday. I secretly planned a grand proposal. I rented out the entire amusement park and arranged 9,999 roses into a heart-shaped C. That night, I took her onto the Ferris wheel opened only for the two of us. When the wheel slowly rose to its highest point, the city's night view lay before us. On the ground, countless fireworks simultaneously burst, spelling out Sophia, marry me in the sky. Sophia covered her mouth, looking at it all in surprise, tears in her eyes like pearls on a broken string. I went down on one knee and took out the ring I had prepared for a long time, engraved with both our fingerprints. Sophia, I know I'm not a perfect lover. I was blind and heartless before and missed you once. Thank heavens for giving me a second chance so I could take your hand again. I don't have many flowery words. I just want to tell you that I want to walk the road ahead with you. Your joys, your sorrows, everything about you, I'll bear it. So, Miss Sophia, will you marry me and let me take care of you for the rest of your life? My voice trembled slightly from nervousness. Sophia had already been reduced to a tear-streaked mess. She choked and couldn't speak, only nodding hard. I excitedly slipped the ring onto her ring finger, then stood and pulled her into a tight embrace. I love you, Sophia. I love you too, Ethan. At the Ferris wheel's highest point, beneath the brilliant fireworks, we kissed deeply, as if trying to fold the loves of 2 lifetimes into that kiss. Our wedding was simple and warm. We didn't invite many people, only our closest family and friends. On the wedding day, Sophia wore the dress I had designed for her. She looked like an angel fallen to earth. When she linked arms with George and walked step by step toward me, it felt like I was seeing the most beautiful sight in the world. George placed her hand into mine, his eyes rimmed with red. Ethan, I entrust my precious daughter to you. You must treat her well. Mr. George, you can rest assured. I solemnly took his hand, and with it, took on her life. In front of everyone, we exchanged rings and made vows for a lifetime. The wedding over, I brought Sophia back to our new home. It was a villa I had designed myself, the yard planted with the flowers and plants she loved. There was also a ragdoll cat named Machi and a golden retriever I later bought to keep it company, called Bubbles. Machi and Bubbles registered before we did. They clung to each other every day, inseparable. Wedding night, I held my goddess-like bride, yet felt as nervous as a green youth. Though we had already consummated our marriage earlier, tonight felt especially significant. Sophia seemed even more nervous than I was. Her little face flushed to the point of spilling blood, and she dared not look at me. I bent down and kissed away the bashfulness at the corner of her eye. Wife, we should rest now. My voice was hoarse beyond belief. She softly uttered like a lamb awaiting the slaughter. I wrapped my arms around her waist and carried her toward the bed strewn with rose petals. A night of romantic abandon, the room filled with spring. Married life was simple and sweet. I became a complete house husband. My greatest daily pleasure was studying recipes and cooking delicious meals for my wife. Sophia, on the other hand, displayed astonishing talent in her career. She was no longer the girl who followed me needing my protection. She became a capable, formidable woman who ran the company with perfect order. Many people said she was the woman behind me, but I knew I was the man standing behind her. A year later, Sophia gave birth to a lovely daughter. I named her Mia Johnson. The birth of our daughter added even more laughter and joy to our lives. I became utterly devoted to my daughter, holding my little princess every day, never getting enough of kissing her. Sophia often grew jealous, saying I loved our daughter more than her. I would then pull the mother and daughter into my arms together and domineeringly declare, "You are both mine. No one gets away." She would laugh in my arms like a child. I often wondered what virtue I had accumulated in my past life to deserve such perfect happiness in this one. Perhaps it was Chloe's blessing. Perhaps it was heaven's mercy. But more than anything, it was the woman beside me whom I was willing to love and protect for a lifetime. At sunset, I held our daughter, Sophia, nestled against me, while Machi and Bubbles chased and played on the lawn. Time was gentle and the present peaceful. I think this is probably the most beautiful form of happiness. George, I've got good news and bad news. Which do you want to hear first? I put down my paintbrush and looked at my friend Frank. He stood at the studio door with a mysterious air, his face a mix of nervousness and excitement. Let's start with the bad news. After all, I've gotten used to it these past 3 years. Your painting, Eternity, just sold for a sky-high price. Over $6 million. I frowned. How is that bad news? Frank chuckled. Because it's actually part of the good news. The bad news is, buddy, you might need to see a psychiatrist. What do you mean? A woman who looks exactly like Mary showed up at your art exhibition. I almost thought I was seeing a ghost. The paintbrush slipped from my hand and fell to the floor, splattering paint across the unfinished canvas. Mary, my late wife, died 3 years ago after accidentally falling off a cliff. I watched with my own eyes as her body was pulled from the water. In that moment, my world completely collapsed. Stop joking around, Frank. Why would I lie to you? She even left this. Frank handed me a note, with an address and a time written on it. My hand trembled slightly. The handwriting was exactly the same as Mary's. That night, I waited until midnight at the designated cafe. Just as I was about to leave, a familiar figure appeared at the door. Mary? No, it couldn't be her. But every gesture of that woman, from the tips of her hair to her fingertips, was a shadow of Mary. George, it's been a long time. She sat across from me, and the familiar voice nearly made my heart stop. Who are you? I struggled to remain calm. I'm Mary, your wife. She smiled and reached out her hand. There was a scar on her palm, the mark Mary got when she accidentally cut herself on glass at 15. Impossible. Mary is already dead. She laughed softly. That was just an accident. I fell off the cliff and was saved by a reclusive old doctor. I lost my memory from the injuries and only recently remembered everything. As she spoke, tears began to fall with an expression I knew all too well, the look Mary wore whenever she felt wronged. I know it's hard to believe, but I really am Mary. I couldn't believe my eyes. The shade of lipstick Mary loved most, the faint little mole beneath her left ear, the unconscious habit of rubbing her ring while speaking. Everything was so familiar. You? Are you really Mary? She nodded and took a small box out of her bag. This is the proof. Inside the box was the first piece of jewelry Mary ever designed. A sapphire ring, the only one of its kind, never mass-produced. I brought it with me that day because I wanted to surprise you. I suddenly stood up and pulled her into my arms. 3 years of longing surged over me like a tide. I held her tightly, afraid that if I let go, she would disappear again. On the way home, she told me about her experiences over the past 3 years. She was rescued by an old doctor in the mountains, lost her memory due to a severe head injury, and lived in a remote mountain village for more than 2 years. It wasn't until she happened to see a poster for my art exhibition that her memory gradually returned. The next day, I took her to see Frank. Oh my God, it really is you, Mary. Frank stared in astonishment, eyes wide. Frank, it's been a long time. She greeted him with a smile, exactly as I remembered. Frank pulled me aside and whispered, Man, this is unbelievable, but I really believe it's her. Who else but Mary could call me by my childhood nickname so accurately? That was something only the two of you knew. A week later, Mary officially returned. We held a small welcome party for her. Her mother was so overwhelmed that she fainted, and when she woke up, she clung to her daughter and refused to let go. But that night, I noticed the first sign that something was off. Mary never ate mangoes because she was severely allergic. Yet the returned Mary absent-mindedly tasted a mango dessert and was perfectly fine. "Aren't you allergic to mangoes?" I asked. She paused for a moment, then quickly laughed and said, "Oh, that old Chinese doctor cured my allergy. He's really amazing." I nodded, but in my heart, I marked the first question mark. Is this really my wife? A month passed quickly, and Mary blended perfectly into our lives. She knew the location of every item in the house, remembered our shared memories, and could even accurately name friends we hadn't contacted in years. But those subtle feelings of discord kept growing. For example, the real Mary liked to listen to classical music, especially Debussy, while designing jewelry. But she would always unconsciously hum along to pop songs. Mary always habitually used her left hand to hold chopsticks, even though she knew it was wrong. She just couldn't change. But she was a standard right-handed user. The most obvious difference appeared that night when I accidentally caught her smoking in the bedroom. The real Mary hated the smell of smoke. Even when I came home from social events with a faint scent of cigarettes, she would frown. "When did you start smoking?" I stood at the doorway, my voice soft. She was clearly startled, hastily snuffing out the cigarette. This is a herbal cigarette for treating insomnia, prescribed by an old Chinese doctor." I nodded, not pressing further, but the doubts in my heart only grew deeper. The next day, I went to find Frank. "Help me check if, in the past 3 years, plastic surgery technology has advanced enough to achieve this level." Frank's eyes widened. "You mean, she's not Mary?" "I'm not sure, but there are always some things that don't add up." 2 days later, Frank brought news. High-end plastic surgery can make faces look similar, but it can't replicate the exact placement of scars or moles. And there's a limit to how well someone can imitate a voice. What if it was a twin? Frank shook his head. "Mary is an only child. We all know that." I decided not to show my feelings for now and to keep observing. A week later, Mary's mother came to my house with astonishing news. "George, Mary is going to have a baby," my mother-in-law told me excitedly. I stood there stunned. Before we got married, Mary had been diagnosed with uterine hypoplasia. The doctor had made it clear she could never get pregnant. This was our shared secret. Not even my mother-in-law knew. How do you know that?" I managed to ask. "Mary told me this morning. She said she already had a checkup. It's been 2 months. My mother-in-law happily grabbed my hand. "It's a blessing from above. Mary survived death, and now she can bring us new life." My heart sank to the bottom. This absolutely could not be Mary. That night, I dug out the hospital's diagnosis certificate in my study, which clearly stated the condition of Mary's uterus. But when I wanted to talk to Mary about it, I found her in the bedroom, excitedly discussing the decoration of the nursery with my mother-in-law. "Mary, could you come here for a moment?" I called her calmly. She followed me into the study, still wearing a blissful smile on her face. "Did you forget about this?" I handed her the diagnosis certificate. She took it and glanced at it, her face instantly turning pale. "George, I can explain." "Explain what?" "Explain that you're not Mary at all." Mother-in-law heard the commotion and walked in. "What's going on with you two?" "Mom, take a look at this." I handed her the proof. My mother-in-law read it, then looked at Mary in astonishment. "What's going on?" "Mary, you can't have children." "Of course she can," I sneered, "because she's not Mary at all." My mother-in-law's face changed dramatically. "What nonsense are you talking about?" "I can explain." She hurriedly grabbed my mother-in-law's hand. "That old Chinese doctor not only saved my life, but also cured my uterine problem. It's a miracle, truly." My mother-in-law looked at me, then at her, hesitating. "George, you're being too paranoid." My mother-in-law finally took her daughter's side. "Mary has come back with great difficulty. You should cherish her, not doubt her." "Yes, George, I know this is hard to accept, but miracles do happen." Tears welled up in her eyes. "Haven't we always wanted a child? Now we can finally have our own baby." I looked at her face, identical to Mary's, yet I became more certain in my heart. This woman was not my wife. "All right, I believe you." I smiled, deciding to go along with their story for now. Let's wait together for this miracle to happen. That night, I secretly contacted a private detective. My mother-in-law gladly accepted her daughter's explanation, even suggesting she move in with us to take care of Mary during her pregnancy. Outwardly, I agreed, but inside I grew even more wary. This was no coincidence. There had to be some kind of plot. Mom, haven't you always lived in Haicheng? Won't it be hard to get used to living here? I probed cautiously. For my grandson, I'm willing to endure any inconvenience, my mother-in-law said firmly. I noticed a fleeting unnatural expression on Mary's face. Could the truth be connected to my mother-in-law? On the third day after my mother-in-law moved in, I discovered more suspicious details. For example, the real Mary never drank coffee, but she and my mother-in-law often enjoyed it together. Also, Mary's favorite movie was Roman Holiday, but she claimed to prefer Titanic. The strangest thing is, Mary used to despise her cousin Tom when she was alive, but now he visits frequently and chats and laughs with Mary as if they're old friends. I told Frank about these discoveries. Buddy, things are getting more and more suspicious, Frank frowned. Are you sure you want to keep going like this? Why not just expose her directly? It's not the right time yet. I want to find out what they're really after. The private detective's investigation also made progress. The so-called old Chinese doctor who had saved Mary did not exist at all, and Mary's whereabouts over the past 3 years were completely untraceable. More importantly, the private detective uncovered a shocking fact during the investigation. Mary's cousin Tom was deeply in debt from gambling, and the painting Eternity under my name, worth over $6 million, was his only hope for quick cash. They're after your painting, the private detective asserted, and this fake Mary is likely a professional identity fraudster, hired to win your trust. I took a deep breath and decided to take the initiative. That afternoon, I pretended to go out, but secretly returned home and hid in the study. Sure enough, Mary and her cousin Tom were whispering to each other in the living room. It's taking too long, Tom said irritably. How much longer until he sells the painting? Don't worry, she soothed him. I'm already pregnant, and now he completely believes I'm Mary. In a little while, I'll say I want to move to a better neighborhood for the sake of the baby, and then we'll naturally need to sell the painting to raise money. You're really pregnant? That wasn't part of the plan. It was an accident, but it works to our advantage. George wants a child so badly. Does Annie know the truth? She only knows we're trying to scam money, not the specific plan. But she hates George, thinks he caused her daughter's death, so she's more than happy to help. I clenched my fists. So my mother-in-law had always believed that Mary's accident was somehow my fault. In fact, we did argue over something trivial that day, and Mary stormed out in anger. I didn't try to stop her. But I never imagined it would be the last time I'd see her. You don't actually have feelings for George, do you? Tom suddenly asked. She was silent for a moment. It's just part of the job. Besides, I owe you, and I won't go back on my word. Good then. Don't forget how we're splitting the money once we get it. Their conversation confirmed my suspicions. This was all an elaborate scheme, with my eternity as the target. In the days that followed, I pretended everything was normal while secretly making preparations. I contacted the police, arranged for evidence-gathering equipment, and found the last piece Mary had left before she died, a silver necklace that had never been made public, engraved with an anniversary date only the two of us knew. 2 weeks later, my art exhibition was held as scheduled. As planned, Mary brought up the idea of moving, hinting that I could sell Eternity. I pretended to agree and said I would auction the painting on the last day of the exhibition. This is a surprise I prepared for you, I said on the eve of the exhibition, taking out a delicate box. To celebrate the new life we're about to begin. She opened the box in surprise, and inside was the silver necklace. It's beautiful, thank you. She smiled as she prepared to put it on. Wait, I stopped her. Aren't you going to look at the engraving on the back? She turned the necklace over, and her face suddenly went pale. What's wrong? Don't you like it? I asked, feigning ignorance. No, I really like it. It's just, I'm a bit moved. She forced a smile, but didn't know how to explain that she couldn't recognize the significance of that date. See you tomorrow. Get some good rest, and don't forget to wear this necklace. I kissed her forehead and whispered in her ear, after all, this is your final design. Her body visibly stiffened for a moment, but she kept smiling. Of course, I cherish it very much. Tomorrow, the truth will come to light. On the day of the exhibition, the place was packed with people. My painting, Eternity, was displayed in the most prominent spot, right next to the last batch of jewelry designs Mary had created before her death. Mary held my arm, flawlessly playing the role of my wife as always. She had even gone out of her way to wear Mary's favorite white dress and the silver necklace I had given her last night. My mother-in-law and Tom were there too. The three of them exchanged glances from time to time, clearly waiting for the perfect moment. Frank appeared as planned, pretending to be extremely interested in eternity and asking me about the auction details. The auction will begin promptly at 4 in the afternoon, I replied with a smile. This painting means a great deal to me, and I hope it finds someone who truly appreciates it. Mary immediately chimed in. Yes, although it's hard to part with it, this is a necessary decision for our future. I noticed she glanced at Tom, who gave a barely perceptible nod. At 3:30 in the afternoon, the projector in the center of the exhibition hall lit up. This was the special segment I had arranged. Ladies and gentlemen, I stood in front of eternity. Before the auction begins, I'd like to share a little story about this painting. Mary's photo appeared on the projection screen, a group picture from her last birthday party before she passed away. 3 years ago, my wife Mary died in an accident. I created this painting, Eternity, in her memory. The woman in the painting has her back to the viewer, forever gazing into the distance, symbolizing a longing I can never reach. A soft sigh rippled through the crowd. Mary stood beside me, matching my words with a sorrowful expression. However, a month ago, a miracle happened. I turned to look at Mary. My wife came back. The whole room erupted in astonishment, and many people curiously sized up, Mary. This is my wife, Mary. I took her hand and stepped forward. Back from the dead, it's truly the greatest blessing heaven could have given me. She smiled and nodded to everyone, while my mother-in-law and Tom stood by with smug expressions. However, my tone suddenly shifted. Amidst my joy, a question arose. Is she really Mary? The entire room fell silent. Mary's hand trembled slightly in my palm. So, I did some investigating. The projector switched to a set of comparison photos. On the left was the real Mary. On the right was a photo of her. They look exactly the same, don't they? But I clicked the remote, and the photo was enlarged, the details highlighted. The position of the piercing on the left ear was slightly different, the arch of the eyebrows subtly varied, and the fine lines at the corners of the eyes ran in different directions. These are details that even professional plastic surgery cannot fully replicate. Mary tried to pull her hand away, but I held on tightly. My mother-in-law and Tom also began to grow anxious, glancing toward the exit. More importantly, the real Mary has a feature that cannot be copied. I turned to Mary. The necklace I gave you last night has a date engraved on the back. Can you tell everyone what that date is? She opened her mouth, but no words came out. That was the due date of our first child, the one we lost. I spoke softly, my voice trembling with emotion. Mary designed this necklace to commemorate the baby we never got to meet. The date was our secret, only Mary and I knew. The room fell utterly silent. Mary turned deathly pale, my mother-in-law's eyes widened, and Tom had already started edging toward the door. What surprised me even more, I continued, was that the real Mary could never get pregnant due to an underdeveloped uterus. Yet this, Mary claims she's already 2 months along. I let go of her hand and took a step back. So, who are you really? A flicker of despair flashed in Mary's eyes, but she quickly regained her composure. I am Mary, it's just that old Chinese doctor. The non-existent old Chinese doctor, right? I sneered. Just like the non-existent amnesia, the non-existent miraculous recovery. I turned toward the projection screen. Let's see the truth. The screen played the secretly recorded video of her conversation with Tom, their discussion on how to swindle eternity, clearly audible. This isn't. She tried to explain, but my mother-in-law had already rushed forward. Who are you really? My mother-in-law screamed. You're not my daughter? Auntie, stop pretending, I said calmly. You know she's not Mary. You just wanted to get back at me, didn't you? My mother-in-law's face turned pale. I didn't know she was going to impersonate Mary. Tom just said he needed help to scam some money. Police. Don't move. Several plainclothes officers emerged from the crowd, blocking Tom as he tried to escape. Amid the chaos, Mary took the opportunity to shove me aside and run toward the exit. I chased after her and caught up in the parking lot. Tell me, who are you really? She finally stopped, turned to face me, tears welling in her eyes. My name is Luna. I'm an actress. Tom found me and said if I helped trick you out of a painting, he'd give me $1 million. I needed the money for my sister's medical treatment. Why did they choose me? Why Mary? She shook her head. I don't know. They gave me a lot of information, photos, videos, even your chat logs. I was just following the script. The police arrived and took her away. I stood where I was, gazing at the distant sky, my heart a tumult of emotions. Back in the exhibition hall, the crowd had already dispersed, leaving only Frank and a few police officers. It's all been cleared up, Frank walked over. Tom owed money to loan sharks and was desperate. Your mother-in-law always resented you for not saving Mary, so she helped them plan the whole thing. I walked up to Eternity, gently caressing the back of the woman in the painting. Mary, I can finally give you an answer. The police left with the evidence. Frank patted me on the shoulder. What do you plan to do next? I took a deep breath. Prepare for the final painting. What will it be called? The Pursuit, I said softly. This time, I'll paint her face, not just her back. After the case was solved, my life seemed to return to where it was 3 years ago. Eternity was temporarily held by the court as crucial evidence. Tom and Luna were arrested for fraud, and my mother-in-law was investigated as an accomplice. The prosecution wants you to testify in court, the officer called to inform me. The trial is scheduled for early next month. I agreed, though I was utterly exhausted inside. After exposing the deception, I thought I would feel the thrill of revenge, but what I felt instead was a profound emptiness. Those days spent with Mary that month had allowed me to feel a trace of warmth in life again, even if that warmth was born of lies. Frank often came to see me, worried I might fall into despair once more. I told him not to worry, that I was working on a new piece, The Pursuit. Are you really going to paint Mary's face from the front? Frank asked curiously. For the past 3 years, you've always refused to do that. It's time, I replied. We can't live in the past forever. I moved out of the apartment I had shared with Mary and returned to the old house in the suburbs, the place where the real Mary and I had first made our home. The dust-laden memories in the house brought me both pain and comfort. Mary's studio remained just as she had left it, design sketches scattered across the table, unfinished jewelry drafts pinned to the drawing board. One afternoon, while sorting through Mary's belongings, I discovered an encrypted external hard drive. After several attempts, I finally unlocked it using our wedding anniversary as the password. Inside were backups of Mary's design works, along with some personal photos and videos. One folder in particular caught my attention. Inside a folder named Plan was a series of jewelry design sketches, labeled George's Birthday Special Project. It was then I remembered that, in the months before Mary passed away, she often spoke mysteriously about giving me an unparalleled birthday surprise. Leafing through these design drafts, I couldn't help but be moved to tears. Mary had planned to design a jewelry collection inspired by my paintings over the years, with each piece corresponding to a representative work from my artistic career. The last page was a sketch of a ring, with a dark red stone set in the center, its edges adorned with tiny diamonds, closely resembling the sunrise in my early work, Dawn. This is blood amber? I examined the notes carefully, confirming the name of this rare gemstone. Mary's designs had always been bold, but blood amber is extremely rare in the Chinese market, almost impossible to acquire. How did she obtain such a material? As I continued searching, I found a series of email correspondence screenshots. Mary had actually contacted a gemstone dealer in Myanmar, commissioning the blood amber specifically for this ring. The last email showed that the gem had already been shipped, but the date was exactly 1 week before Mary's death. I immediately called Frank. Help me check if there was a package sent from Myanmar 3 years ago, addressed to Mary. 2 days later, Frank brought news. The package did exist, but since no one signed for it, it was returned. However, according to the shipping records, it was resent a month ago, this time addressed to you. What? I was completely confused. I haven't received any package. Check your old apartment? Frank suggested. Back at my old apartment, the manager told me there was indeed a package, but it had been signed for by Mary. She said it was a surprise for you, so she didn't notify you, the manager explained. This meant Luna had taken the blood amber. I rushed to the detention center and requested to see Luna. Separated by glass, she looked much more haggard than the last time we met, but still wore that face so similar to Mary's. What are you doing here? She asked coldly. A month ago, you signed for a package from Myanmar. There was a blood amber inside. I want to know where it is. She looked surprised. How did you know? Tom asked me to sign for it. He said it was some precious gem. He took it. My heart sank. Tom was deep in gambling debt. A precious blood amber would be a windfall for him. He had probably sold it long ago. That blood amber is very important to me, I said softly. It was the last gift my wife left me. Luna was silent for a moment, then suddenly said, maybe it's not that bad. Tom said the stone has flaws, its value is greatly reduced, and he hasn't found a suitable buyer yet. Hope was rekindled. If Tom hadn't sold the blood amber yet, maybe there was still a chance to get it back. Do you know where he might hide it? Luna hesitated for a moment. He has a safe deposit box in a self-storage facility on the east side of the city. After getting the address, I immediately contacted the officer in charge of the case and explained the situation. Since Tom was involved in a large sum of money, the police quickly approved the search request. Mr. George, we've found the safe deposit box, the officer said over the phone. Inside, we did find the blood amber you described, as well as some other evidence. A few hours later, I retrieved the blood amber at the police station. It was even more beautiful than I had imagined. Within the dark red core, wisps of mist seemed to swirl, shifting strangely under the light. This was the birthday gift Mary had so carefully chosen for me, waiting for 3 years. Back home, I carefully placed the blood amber beside the canvas of the pursuit. The painting was already more than half finished, Mary's face emerging from the blur into clarity, yet it still felt like something was missing. Watching the blood amber glimmer faintly under the light, I suddenly understood how I should complete the painting. The creation of the pursuit entered its final stage. I decided to break convention and incorporate the blood amber into the artwork. This would not only be a portrait, but a hybrid piece that fused painting with the art of jewelry. Are you sure you want to do this? Frank frowned. That blood amber is priceless. That's exactly why, I said firmly. Mary chose it for me. She wanted to inspire an unparalleled masterpiece. I will fulfill her wish. For 2 whole weeks, I worked day and night, neglecting sleep and food. I cut the blood amber into thin slices and inlaid them at the spot of Mary's eyes on the canvas, making her gaze truly come alive. I used a special technique to blend the surrounding paint, creating a harmonious transition with the gemstone. From certain angles, the entire painting seemed to be imbued with life, and Mary's expression would shift depending on where the viewer stood. On the day I finished the piece, Frank brought news. Luna had been sentenced to 3 years in prison, but due to her good attitude in confessing, she might serve only 1.5 years. Tom, involved in multiple fraud cases, was sentenced to 7 years. My mother-in-law, as an accomplice, received a suspended sentence. The case is finally over, Frank said. Are you planning to exhibit your painting? Yes. Next month there will be a solo exhibition at the National Art Museum, and The Pursuit will be the grand finale. The curator couldn't stop praising this piece, believing it represents the innovative direction of contemporary art and marks the pinnacle of my career. Indeed, this painting, which incorporates Mary's jewelry design concepts, is in some sense a creation we made together. On the eve of the exhibition, I checked the arrangement in the gallery alone one last time, making sure every piece was perfectly lit and positioned. When I reached The Pursuit, I couldn't help but stop and gaze at it. Mary's face was vividly lifelike, her eyes inlaid with blood amber gleaming under the spotlight, as if she were smiling at me. For the first time in 3 years, I faced her directly, no longer painting only her back. Mr. George, a stranger's voice called from behind. Sorry to disturb you, but the gallery has been cleared. He turned around to see a young woman dressed in the museum's staff uniform. And you are? I'm the new curator, responsible for security in your exhibition area, she explained with a smile. I really like your work, especially this piece, The Pursuit. Thank you. I nodded. I'll be leaving soon. She didn't leave, but continued to gaze at the painting. That red gem is beautiful, almost as if it's alive. It's blood amber, I explained, a very rare gemstone. I know, she said softly, top-grade blood amber from Myanmar, containing plant fossils, extremely rare. I looked at her in surprise. You know a lot about jewelry? She smiled. I studied jewelry design. I'm just working part-time here. For some reason, Mary suddenly came to mind. She, too, had an almost obsessive passion for and expertise in gemstones. If you don't mind me asking, who is the woman in this painting? She asked. My wife, I replied. She passed away 3 years ago. She was a jewelry designer. I'm very sorry, she said sincerely, then gestured toward the blood amber. This gem must mean a great deal to you. It was the last birthday gift she chose for me before she died, but I only found it recently. She nodded thoughtfully. Setting it into her portrait is the best way to remember her. For some reason, talking with this unfamiliar woman brought me a strange sense of calm. Perhaps it was her love for jewelry that reminded me of Mary. Sorry, I have to continue my rounds. She glanced at her watch. See you tomorrow, Mr. George. See you tomorrow, I replied, watching her leave. On the way home, I felt an unusual peace. The completion of The Pursuit seemed to mark the end of my search for Mary as well. Not forgetting, but remembering her forever in another way. The next day, the exhibition's opening ceremony attracted numerous figures from the art world and the media. The Pursuit undoubtedly became the center of attention, with people marveling at this innovative form of artistic expression. Amid the crowd, I noticed that curator standing aside, watching as well. Sunlight streamed through the skylight of the gallery, falling upon her, and for a fleeting moment, I thought I saw Mary's shadow. No, I shook my head, warning myself not to be deceived by mere resemblance. There would never be another Mary in this world, just as there would never be another unique blood amber. After the exhibition, The Pursuit was purchased by an anonymous collector for an astronomical price. I donated all the proceeds to a foundation supporting students in jewelry design, establishing a scholarship in Mary's name. Life slowly moved forward, and I began to accept new commissions and create new works. Occasionally, I would think of that curator with a unique insight into jewelry, wondering if she was still working at the art museum. Until one day, I received an email from HL. There were no words, only an image. A sketch of a ring design, the style strikingly similar to Mary's unfinished series. My heart raced as I replied immediately. Who is this? The response came quickly. Yesterday, you brushed past me by the cafe on the street corner, but you didn't recognize me. If you want to know more, wait for me at the museum entrance at noon tomorrow. Is it that librarian? How could she have a design so reminiscent of Mary's style? Filled with anxiety and anticipation, I decided to accept the invitation and find out for myself. The next day at noon, I arrived at the art museum half an hour early. The sun was shining, and small groups of visitors were coming and going from the exhibition hall, but there was no sign of the mysterious person. Just as I began to suspect this might be some kind of prank, a faint trace of perfume drifted by, a scent unfamiliar to me, yet it inexplicably reminded me of Mary. Mr. George, thank you for coming. The voice behind me made me turn around. It was the curator. Today, she wasn't wearing her uniform, but a simple white dress, completely different from Mary's style when she was alive. Did you send the email? I asked directly. She nodded. There are some things I want to tell you, but not here. Will you come with me? We walked through the small park beside the art museum and arrived at a secluded cafe. The whole time, I kept observing her. Her mannerisms, the way she walked, none of it resembled Mary. Yet her sensitivity to detail and her focused attention gave me a strange sense of familiarity. Who are you, really? The moment we sat down, I couldn't wait to ask. My name is Nicole. She looked me straight in the eye. I'm Mary's student. This answer caught me off guard. Mary had indeed taught jewelry design part-time at the Design Academy before she passed away, but she had never mentioned having any particularly close students. I took her advanced design class the year before she passed, Nicole explained. Her guidance benefited me for a lifetime. That still doesn't explain why your designs resemble her style so much, I said, half convinced. Nicole took a folder out of her bag. These are all notes from Ms. Nicole's class and her feedback on my work. You can look at the handwriting and confirm that it's really hers. I carefully examined the materials. It was indeed Mary's handwriting. There were even traces of the pale purple ink she habitually used. Before Ms. Nicole passed away, she was guiding me on my graduation project, Nicole continued. The theme was interwoven light and shadow, blending Eastern and Western aesthetic elements. She gave me a lot of valuable advice, and even showed me a sketch from a private project she was working on at the time. George's special birthday project? I blurted out. Nicole's eyes widened in surprise. You know about it? I only found out recently. I briefly explained the origin of the blood amber. I knew that blood amber would eventually find its way back to you, Nicole said with a smile. Nicole always said it was a destined gift. Is that why you contacted me? Because you saw the blood amber? Nicole was silent for a moment. as if choosing her words carefully. Not entirely. After Nicole passed away, I've been trying to carry on the design philosophy she taught me. Some time ago, I happened to see the news about your eternity being stolen, and then I saw someone impersonating Nicole. I thought I should tell you a few things. She took a letter out of her bag. This is the last letter Nicole gave me after class before she passed away. She said if her surprise plan went smoothly, I should show you this letter. If anything went wrong and she was gone, I should still make sure you see it. I took the envelope. It was indeed Mary's handwriting, and it read, "To my dearest husband." The envelope had already been opened. I didn't know what was in the letter at the time. I just kept it as Nicole instructed, Nicole explained. It wasn't until I saw the news that I opened it. I hope you won't blame me. I carefully took out the letter paper and unfolded it to read. Dear George, if you are reading this letter, perhaps my surprise plan has gone awry. Don't worry, it's just that the plan has changed, and the form of the gift may be different now. The blood amber I picked for you is said to be known as the Eye of Rebirth. Legend has it that looking at the world through it reveals truths that are often overlooked. I hope it can become a turning point in your artistic career, leading you to see new possibilities. All these years, your paintings have always depicted backs, as if you're afraid to face something head-on. I hope this gemstone will give you the courage to paint the front, to capture true emotions. No matter what happens, please remember, love does not disappear, it merely changes form, like this blood amber, which, after millions of years, transforms from resin into a gem, yet still shines. Forever loving you, Mary. The handwriting became a bit messy at the end, as if written in a hurry. I stroked the paper, as if I could feel Mary's emotions at that moment. Thank you, I said, my voice choked with emotion. This means a lot to me. You're welcome. I'm just fulfilling Ms. Nicole's request, Nicole said with a smile. Actually, there's one more thing I'd like to ask your help with. What is it? I'd like to apply for the Mary Scholarship you established, she said, taking a design portfolio out of her bag. This is my graduation project, combining Ms. Nicole's ideas with my own innovations. As I flipped through the portfolio, I was surprised to find that while these designs bore traces of Mary's influence, they also possessed a unique style and innovative touches. In particular, a series called Metamorphosis cleverly combined jewelry with transformable elements, allowing the pieces to change form according to the wearer's mood and occasion. This is outstanding, I praised sincerely. Mary would be proud of you. A hint of joy flashed in Nicole's eyes. Really? I've always worried I couldn't live up to her expectations. You've already moved beyond the learning stage and developed your own style. That's exactly what she hoped to see. As we talked, sunlight streamed through the window and fell on Nicole. In that moment, I seemed to understand something. When Mary spoke of love changing its form, perhaps she wasn't just referring to the blood amber, but also to her passion for art and its legacy. Luna tried to impersonate Mary by mimicking her appearance, but she could never truly replicate who she was. Nicole, on the other hand, looked nothing like Mary, yet she inherited a part of her artistic vision and spirit. Perhaps this is the true gift Mary left me, not the blood amber, but a new possibility, a path out of the past. Nicole's graduation exhibition was held in a small gallery. Though the space was modest, it was exquisitely arranged. Her works were divided into 3 series, representing the past, the present, and the future, forming a complete narrative. This is a brilliant idea, I sincerely praised. From tradition to contemporary and then to the future, it showcases the evolution and possibilities of jewelry design. Nicole smiled and nodded. This was inspired by teacher Nicole. She always says that good design should look back at history, be grounded in the present, and look forward to the future. As I walked through the exhibition hall, I noticed a special display case in the corner, containing only one piece, a seemingly simple ring with a small red gemstone set in the center. This is. I leaned in to read the label, which said, in memory, dedicated to teacher Mary. Yes, I made it from a small piece of blood amber I bought with my own savings, Nicole explained. It can't compare to the quality of yours, but it's also from Myanmar. I examined the design of the ring closely. Clean, powerful lines, with fine silver threads encircling the blood amber, as if protecting the central gem, yet also seeming to radiate light outward. This is very similar to Mary's final design style, I said softly, but it also has your own unique touch. I wanted to create a piece that could both commemorate teacher Nicole and showcase my own style, Nicole explained. The blood amber represents her influence, while the outer design is the direction of my own development. The exhibition attracted quite a few industry insiders, including some well-known figures from the jewelry design world. After viewing the exhibition, an older female designer approached Nicole and offered her an internship opportunity. I stood by, genuinely happy for Nicole. In the evening, as the exhibition was drawing to a close, Frank arrived as well. Seeing me with Nicole, he gave me a knowing smile. "New friend?" he asked me quietly. "Mary's student," I explained simply. "Very talented." Frank nodded without asking further questions. After touring the exhibition, he gave high praise to Nicole's work. It blends traditional and modern elements, demonstrating both technical skill and artistic expression, quite rare. Nicole thanked him politely. This wouldn't have been possible without the guidance of teacher Nicole and teacher George. After the exhibition, the three of us went to a nearby restaurant for dinner. During the meal, Frank talked about recent trends in the art market, while Nicole shared her insights on contemporary jewelry design. The conversation was light and pleasant, and I realized it had been a long time since I had relaxed and chatted with others like this. After a few rounds of drinks, Frank received an urgent call and left early. Only Nicole and I remained in the restaurant, and the atmosphere suddenly became a bit quiet. "Mr. George," Nicole hesitated for a moment before speaking. "I've always had a question I wanted to ask you." "What is it?" "After you finished The Pursuit, what are you planning to create next?" The question caught me off guard. To be honest, ever since The Pursuit, I haven't had any new inspiration. That painting seemed to have drained all my emotions and creativity. "I haven't decided yet," I answered honestly. "It might take some time to find a new direction." Nicole nodded thoughtfully. Nicole once said that the hardest thing for an artist isn't creating a stunning masterpiece, but finding a way forward after reaching the peak. She really did say that, I recalled with a smile. Mary always saw further than I did. "Maybe," Nicole said softly, "you could try a new direction that combines your work with jewelry design? Like in The Pursuit, but taking it even further." I recalled what Mary mentioned in her letter about seeing new possibilities, and suddenly I was inspired. "You mean creating a series of works that combine painting and jewelry?" "Exactly," Nicole said excitedly. "Your paintings create emotion in two-dimensional space, while jewelry gives it tangible form in the three-dimensional world. The combination of the two would have an astonishing effect." The more we talked, the more engaged we became, even sketching a few concept designs on the restaurant's napkins. Nicole's ideas were fresh and bold, perfectly aligning with my artistic vision, yet bringing a new perspective. As we left the restaurant, Nicole suddenly said, "I have to confess something." I looked at her in confusion. "I reached out to you not only to deliver Nicole's letter, but also for a personal reason. I hope to learn from you," she said candidly. "I want to become a designer like Nicole, someone who not only creates beautiful works but also perfectly blends art with emotion." Her sincerity moved me. "You're already on that path, and you're doing very well." "Then, may I consult you often?" she asked a little nervously. Of course, I'd be delighted. On the way home, a series of new works already began to take shape in my mind. A cross-disciplinary art that fuses painting and jewelry, both as a tribute to Mary and as a new starting point in my artistic career. That night, I had a dream. In the dream, Mary stood in a halo of blood-red light, smiling at me and saying, "See, I knew you would find a new direction." When I woke up, I got out of bed immediately and began sketching for the new series. I decided to name it Rebirth. Not only representing the ancient life forever preserved in blood amber, but also symbolizing the rebirth of my artistic career, as well as the inheritance and development of Mary's artistic vision. A week later, I submitted a new series proposal to the gallery and received an enthusiastic response. The curator even suggested holding a special exhibition themed Between Dimensions, a dialogue between painting and jewelry. For this project, I invited Nicole to join the team as a jewelry design consultant. She had just graduated from design school and was both excited and nervous about the opportunity. "Am I really up to the task?" she asked me in the studio. "You understand Mary's design philosophy better than anyone," I assured her. "That's exactly what I need." In the days that followed, we worked at a feverish pace. We created during the day and discussed at night, sometimes even working through until dawn. Nicole's ideas flowed endlessly, and I transformed those thoughts into concrete artistic expressions. In the process, I rediscovered the pure joy of creation that I hadn't felt in a long time. One late night, when we finally finished the design for our first piece, Nicole clapped her hands excitedly. "This is amazing. Teacher Nicole will definitely love it." At the mention of Mary, she suddenly realized her slip and looked at me nervously. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to." "It's all right," I said with a smile. "I think Mary really would like it." She always hoped I could step out of my comfort zone and try new ways of expressing myself. Nicole let out a sigh of relief, then hesitantly asked, "Professor George, may I ask you a personal question?" "What is it?" "When you faced the woman impersonating Professor Nicole, how did you see through her? I mean, from the news reports, she seemed like an exact copy of Professor Nicole." I pondered for a moment. Superficial resemblance is easy to achieve, but a true personality cannot be duplicated. Mary's perception of art, her attitude toward life, the way she handled details, these were all unique. Just like a work of art, Nicole mused, no matter how perfect a replica is, it can never capture the soul of the original. Exactly. We worked through the night again, and finally established the overall framework for the Rebirth series. 7 pieces, each blending elements of painting and jewelry, together telling a story of loss and recovery, death and rebirth. As our collaboration deepened, my relationship with Nicole gradually shifted from teacher and student to partners, both mentor and friend. Sometimes, when the light traced the gentle contours of her focused profile, I would unconsciously think of Mary. But soon, I realized that this association wasn't due to any physical resemblance, but rather that same dedication and passion for art. "George, you look much more spirited lately," Frank remarked at a gathering. "It's been a while since I've seen you so full of life." "Yeah, the new project has helped me rediscover the joy of creating." "Nicole's a good girl," Frank said meaningfully. "Talented, and she really understands you." I understood his implication, but just smiled without responding. There was indeed a special understanding between Nicole and me, but it was more rooted in our shared passion for art than anything else. At least for now. The creation of the Rebirth series took 3 months, longer than expected, but the results were stunning. Each piece was a perfect fusion of painting and jewelry art, offering both the pleasure of viewing as a flat image and the discovery of 3-dimensional effects brought by the jewelry elements from different angles. A week before the exhibition opened, I received an unexpected visitor, Luna. She had served her sentence and was released early. She looked much more haggard than the last time we met, but her eyes were clearer. "I came to apologize to you in person." She stood at the studio door, her voice low, "for everything I have done." I didn't respond immediately, but simply invited her in to sit down. "I know that an apology can't make up for the loss," she continued, "but I want you to know that I truly regret it." "How is your sister's illness?" I asked. She looked up in surprise. You know. I guessed. "You said you needed money for a reason, and I think that must have been true." "Yes," she nodded. "My sister's surgery was a success, and now she's fully recovered. For the past 3 years, I've been thinking about how to make up for my mistakes, even though I may never be able to." I was silent for a moment, then said, "You know, in a way, your appearance actually helped me." "What do you mean?" "It forced me to confront the past, to re-examine my memories with Mary, and ultimately to find a way forward." I pointed to the sketches of the Rebirth series on the wall and briefly explained this new project. Luna listened quietly, a look of genuine respect in her eyes. "I'm glad you were able to find a new beginning from that nightmare," she said at last. "I hope I can find my own path to rebirth as well." As she left, she handed me a small package. "These are some simple pieces of jewelry I made in prison. The craftsmanship is rough, but each one represents my remorse and blessings. I hope you can accept them." Opening the package, I found several small trinkets handmade from fine wire and colorful glass beads. Though simple, it was clear the creator had poured their heart into them. Nicole happened to come into the studio at that moment. Seeing the trinkets, she asked curiously, "What are these?" I told her about Luna's visit. "You forgave her?" Nicole was a bit surprised. "Not exactly forgiveness," I said thoughtfully. "It's more like understanding. Everyone has their own hardships and choices. What's important is how we learn and grow from our mistakes." Nicole nodded pensively, picking up a piece of jewelry to examine it closely. "The craftsmanship is rough, but the concept is ingenious. This person seems to have a talent for design." Perhaps, I said. Everyone has the possibility of being reborn. On the day of the exhibition opening, numerous figures from the art and jewelry worlds gathered together. The Rebirth series received unprecedented acclaim. Critics called it a model of cross-disciplinary art, and the gallery owner was overjoyed, announcing plans for a nationwide tour. In the crowd, I saw Luna. She was dressed simply, standing quietly in a corner, admiring the exhibits. Our eyes met in the air. She nodded slightly, then walked away. "Who was that?" Nicole asked, standing beside me. "Someone searching for rebirth," I replied. Nicole seemed to understand and asked no more. We stood side by side before the pursuit, watching the blood amber refract a strange light under the lamps, like the silent burning of life's flame. "Thank you," I whispered to Nicole. "Without you, this series might never have come into being." "It was your philosophy that guided us, teacher Nicole," she replied modestly. I was just fortunate enough to be the messenger. In that moment, I suddenly understood the true meaning of what Mary had written in her letter. Love has changed its form. Love exists not only in memory and longing, but also in inheritance and innovation, shining brightly in every spark of artistic creation. And I, at last, had learned how to begin anew after loss, to embrace rebirth while still searching. The success of the exhibition exceeded everyone's expectations. In just 1 month, the Rebirth series was reported on by major media outlets and even attracted the attention of the international art world. A renowned auction house extended an olive branch to me, hoping to include several pieces in their annual highlight auction. "This is an unprecedented opportunity," Frank said excitedly. "If the deal goes through, you'll become a top player in the contemporary art market." I wasn't particularly concerned with commercial success, but I did feel the joy of having my work widely recognized. More importantly, this series opened up a new artistic path for me, freeing me from the creative shackles of the past 3 years. Nicole benefited as well. As the project's jewelry design consultant, she received high praise from the industry. Several well-known jewelry brands reached out to her, hoping she would join their design teams. "Which offer are you planning to accept?" One night, as we were tidying up the studio together, I asked her. "To be honest, I'm still hesitating." Nicole paused her work. "These are all great opportunities, but..." "But what?" "But I want to keep working with you." She looked straight into my eyes. "Rebirth is just the beginning, isn't it?" Her candor surprised me a little. Indeed, the success of this series had opened up many new creative possibilities for us, but I wasn't sure if I should continue such a close working relationship. "You should consider your own career development," I said tactfully. "These opportunities are very rare for young designers." Nicole seemed to sense my hesitation and nodded gently. "I understand." In the days that followed, we were both busy and rarely had the chance to talk alone. A week later, Nicole told me she had decided to accept an invitation from a French jewelry brand and would be going to Paris to work for 2 years. "Congratulations," I said sincerely. "It's a very good choice." "Thank you," she replied with a smile, though a fleeting, elusive emotion flashed in her eyes. "I think this is the best arrangement for both of us." Before Nicole left, we held a small farewell party. Frank, the curator, and a few mutual friends came. The atmosphere was warm, tinged with a hint of sadness. After a few rounds of drinks, Frank found an opportunity to pull me aside. "Are you really going to just let her go like this?" "What do you mean?" I pretended not to understand. "Don't play dumb, man," Frank said bluntly. "You have feelings for her. That's obvious." "That's just professional rapport," I argued. "Is that so?" Frank looked at me meaningfully. "Then why have you been so distracted ever since she decided to go to France?" I was at a loss for words. In fact, these past few days I had indeed felt an inexplicable sense of loss, but I kept telling myself it was only because I had lost an excellent partner. "I know what you're worried about." Frank lowered his voice. "You feel like you're letting Mary down, don't you?" I remained silent. He had touched upon the deepest concern in my heart. "Mary has been gone for 3 years now." Frank gently patted my shoulder. "She would want you to be happy." After the party ended, I walked Nicole home. The night was tranquil as water, and the city lights flowed around us. "Thank you for your help and guidance these past few months." Nicole stopped at the entrance of her apartment building. "This experience has meant so much to me." "I should be thanking you," I said sincerely. "Without you, the Rebirth series would never have been completed." We fell into silence, as if both searching for the right words to say goodbye. My flight is the morning after tomorrow, Nicole finally said. I still have some things to take care of tomorrow. So, this is probably the last time we'll see each other. 2 years will pass quickly. I tried to make my voice sound light. Paris is a beautiful city. You'll like it there. She nodded, a complex emotion flickering in her eyes. Professor George, there's something I've always wanted to tell you, but never found the right opportunity. What is it? I chose to study jewelry design because I saw Nicole's works. She took a deep breath, or more precisely, because I saw the pieces Nicole designed for you. The way she perfectly fused love and art moved me deeply. I didn't know that, I said in surprise. I've always hoped that one day I could be like Nicole, creating art filled with emotion. Nicole continued, her words coming faster, as if afraid she might lose her courage. But now I realize that what I want even more is to create for a specific person, just like Nicole created for you. I understood her implication, and my heart suddenly began to race. Nicole, please don't respond, she gently interrupted me. I just wanted you to know before I leave. No matter how you feel right now, remember that starting over is not a betrayal of the past, but a way of cherishing life. With that, she rose up on her tiptoes and softly kissed my cheek, then quickly turned and walked into the apartment building, leaving me standing alone in the night, my mind in turmoil. After returning home, I tossed and turned, unable to sleep, replaying Nicole's words and that gentle kiss over and over in my mind. Suddenly, I remembered a small box in the study, where Mary's last complete letter was kept, a letter I had found while sorting through her belongings. But at the time, overwhelmed by grief, I never had the courage to open. Now, I finally mustered the courage to walk into the study and retrieve that delicate little box from the depths of the drawer. Inside lay a pale pink letter, bearing Mary's familiar handwriting. Dearest George, by the time you read this letter, you may find yourself at a crossroads in life, hesitating between moving forward or staying where you are. My greatest wish is that you can move bravely through life, as freely as your brush glides across the canvas. Love is not a shackle, but a liberation. Memory is not a burden, but a source of strength. If one day you meet someone who can rekindle the light in your eyes, please don't hesitate because of your longing for me. True love is wishing happiness for the other, even if there is no longer a place for oneself in that happiness. Remember, the days we loved each other were complete, with no need for regrets. And now, it's time to paint a new picture, my beloved. Forever loving you. Mary. Tears blurred my vision. It was as if Mary had foreseen my current situation and had already given me her blessing. She was always like this, always able to see further and more clearly than I could. At that moment, I made up my mind. Early the next morning, I drove straight to Nicole's apartment. Professor George? Nicole opened the door in surprise, clearly not expecting me. I have something to say to you. I looked her straight in the eyes, not as your teacher, but as George. I handed her Mary's letter. Nicole read it carefully, her expression shifting from surprise to being moved, and finally, her eyes grew moist. She truly was an extraordinary woman, Nicole said softly, handing the letter back to me. Yes, she was, I nodded. That's exactly why I believe her words. Nicole, cancel your plans for Paris. Stay and continue our collaboration, will you? Nicole looked at me in shock. Are you serious? I've never been more serious, I said quietly. Rebirth is not just the name of an artwork, it's a possibility in life. Are you willing to explore that possibility with me? Her answer was a firm embrace, warm and real, like the first ray of sunlight after a long winter. In that moment, I felt as if Mary was somewhere, smiling down on us, blessing this new beginning. Life is like that blood amber, enduring countless ages of change and sedimentation, ultimately transforming into an eternal radiance. And I, at last, understood what true pursuit is, what true rebirth means. A year later, Nicole and I unveiled our second joint project, Interwoven, at the National Art Museum. This series was even bolder and more innovative than Rebirth, blending Eastern and Western aesthetics with various art forms. Critics hailed it as a significant breakthrough in contemporary art. At the opening ceremony, Nicole held my arm as we faced the media interviews and congratulations from the audience together. She wore a simple white dress, and around her neck was the Eye of Rebirth necklace we designed together. She completed the jewelry part based on my painting. Your collaboration seems even more in sync than your last project, a reporter asked with a suggestive smile. Nicole glanced at me, and we exchanged a smile. Yes, both in art and in life, We found the perfect balance. This indirect answer drew a round of good-natured laughter from the reporters present. My relationship with Nicole was no longer a secret, but we always kept a low profile, letting the public's attention remain focused on our artistic creations. After the exhibition, we drove out to a small hill in the countryside. There stood an ancient oak tree, beneath which Mary's ashes were laid to rest. This was the place we chose, rather than a traditional cemetery, natural, peaceful, just like Mary herself. "Mary, the exhibition was a great success today," I said softly to the stone beneath the tree. "Nicole's designs were admired by everyone, just as you once predicted." Nicole crouched down and placed a bouquet of white daisies in front of the stone. "Teacher Nicole, I've been working hard to become the kind of designer you hoped I would be. I hope you can be proud of me." A gentle breeze stirred, and the oak's leaves rustled softly, as if it were Mary's reply. On the way back, Nicole suddenly said, "I've been thinking about something." "What is it?" "If that woman who pretended to be Ms. Nicole hadn't appeared, you might never have found the blood amber, never created the pursuit, and we might never have met." Her words made me fall into deep thought. Indeed, it was the series of events triggered by that deception that ultimately led to everything now. It feels as if, in the unseen, some force has been orchestrating it all. "Perhaps that's the irony of fate," I said softly. "Sometimes, the worst beginnings can lead us to the best endings." When I returned home, I received an unexpected package. Upon opening it, I found a delicate little box containing a handmade ring. Though simple, the craftsmanship had improved greatly compared to the pieces I had seen before. There was a note attached. "Mr. George, thank you for your kindness and understanding a year ago, which gave me the courage to start over. Now I have found a job at a small jewelry shop, and my life is gradually getting back on track. This ring represents my gratitude, and I wish you happiness and well-being on your new path." "Luna," I handed the ring to Nicole. After examining it carefully, she remarked, "Her skills have improved a lot. She truly has talent." "Some mistakes in life shouldn't become permanent scars," I sighed. "Everyone deserves a second chance." That night, we sat in the studio, discussing ideas for the next series. Nicole suddenly proposed a bold idea. I was thinking, maybe we could try connecting the different stages of our work to create a complete narrative. From eternity to quest, then to rebirth, and intertwined, they're actually different phases in a person's life journey. "You mean?" "A complete story about loss, searching, rebirth, and integration," she explained excitedly, ultimately asking what is the most precious treasure in life. "Love." I finished her sentence. "No matter what form it takes." Nicole nodded, her eyes sparkling with creative fire. "We could call it the forms of love, an unprecedented artistic exploration." "Sounds like a long-term, ambitious project." "We have time," she smiled, holding my hand. "We have so much time." In that moment, I felt a powerful surge of creative inspiration, just like when I first began my artistic career years ago, filled with passion and possibility. But this time, I was not facing the blank canvas alone. 2 years later, the Forms of Love series was exhibited simultaneously in the world's 5 greatest art museums, causing an unprecedented sensation. Critics called it a milestone in contemporary art history, blending painting, sculpture, jewelry design, and other art forms to create an entirely new artistic language. The final piece of the exhibition was titled Eternal Ring, a massive circular canvas depicting every form of love in life, familial, platonic, romantic, and the love for art itself. The edge of the canvas was inlaid with gemstones of various sizes, and under certain lighting, these gems would cast light onto specific parts of the canvas, revealing another hidden layer of patterns. The centerpiece of this work is a massive blood amber. Through intricate optical design, the light it projects perfectly outlines 2 embracing figures. One is Mary, the other is Nicole, symbolizing the intersection of past and present, the fusion of memory and rebirth. On the closing day of the exhibition, in front of the Eternal Ring, I knelt on one knee and proposed to Nicole. The ring was crafted from the very blood amber Mary had once prepared for me, designed by my own hand and fashioned by the finest jeweler. "This ring carries the memories of the past and the hopes for the future," I whispered softly. "Nicole, will you be the eternal ring in my life?" Her tears sparkled under the spotlight. "I will." Amidst the cheers, I remembered what Mary once said: "Love does not disappear, it merely changes its form." Yes, love does not disappear. It exists in memories, in art, in every rebirth and new beginning. It traverses time and crosses space, like that blood amber which, after millions of years, still shines, forever retaining the original warmth and brilliance of life. This is the answer I have been searching for all along. Between loss and gain, between seeking and rebirth, love remains constant, only appearing in different forms along the journey of life. And all we need to do is bravely accept this gift, no matter how it comes to us. On the day of the wedding, the sky was a clear, washed blue. Beneath the ancient oak tree that had watched over Mary, we exchanged our vows. A gentle breeze stirred, making the leaves whisper as if blessings were drifting in from another world. "No matter when or where," Nicole said softly, "we'll always remember that it was she who brought us together." "Yes," I squeezed her hand, "and we will always cherish this gift." In the brilliant sunlight, the blood amber ring gleamed, radiant as life itself, enduring the passage of time, yet still shining bright.